The Monster King Orochi vs Phoenix Man. Both proved to be major threats to the Hero Association, and both are very strong dragon level monsters. Yes, both of them are from the same team. However, Phoenix Man stated multiple times he would want to be king and create an organization that would far outclasses the Monster Association. With this, he'd have to fight against the top of the monsters, which is King Orochi. Who would win this and who would eventually prevail? Before that, thank you so much for 9k subscribers. I really appreciate it, as this helps me in ways you can never imagine. I'll make sure to be consistent and not to disappoint in the future. And for more One Punch Man content, please make sure to Gaia Cannon the subscribe button and hit the notification bell. Thank you. Now, the King of the Monsters is without a doubt one of the strongest monsters we've seen in the story, stated by Gero and Goketsu to be the strongest monster on Earth. While there are still contenders that would break the validity of that claim, this still puts him above most of the cadres that consist of mid to high dragon level monsters. What made him stand above other monsters was not only his immense destructive force, but also the fact that he is considered to be a martial artist and a fighting genius. He can well copy techniques and adapt throughout the fight, similar to Garu, as shown being capable of copying Water Stream Rock Smashing Fist just from one single glance. Now, I've already made a video featuring Orochi against Platinum Ass. You should go and check it out. However, I'll still make sure to briefly mention his feats and abilities. Orochi slowly and steadily gained more power ever since Gero studied him and experimented on him, making him the first to be a dragon level monster through her experiments of experiencing near-death situations. This was possible due to him possessing greater qualities as a human. Now, what makes Orochi scary to fight against is his variety of abilities. In each situation he faces, he assesses it, adapts, and uses his versatility to overcome it. Example of that was his fight against Garu. This Garu was said to possess even greater qualities than Orochi himself, but the gap difference in strength at that time was pretty apparent. Even when heavily holding back, he was still besting Garu in every exchange, showing the ability to stretch his horns and attack with them fiercely and instantaneously. And once Garu started to dodge and deflect them and decided to attack his weak spot, Orochi just simply shapeshifted to a dragon looking creature and blasted him off with a high temperature energy beams and overpowered him in a raw strength contest. Now, let's summarize his abilities. He can attack with his horns, shapeshifts to different forms such as the dragon and the human form, fire off heat energy beams, and can copy techniques at first glance. Now, Murata has stated in an interview that Orochi would be a disaster level dragon or above, and prior to this, the sentence above dragon was only used for Boros. This led many to believe at that time that Orochi might be on the same level as the dominator of the universe. However, his next and last fight gives more context of how strong he is. Now, this fight has two versions, the pre-retcon and the newly canon redraw. However, he has different forms and feats in both fights. We start with the canon version. Orochi was intelligent enough to understand that Saitama is not ordinary. He was able to put together that Saitama is the true monster of Z City and the one who took down both Goketsu and Elder Centipede. This goes to show how smart Orochi is, not ignoring the signs that points out to Saitama being strong, displaying why he is called a fighting genius. Now, Orochi reveals his true form and takes Saitama to the depths of Earth, planning to sacrifice him and defeat him using his strongest attack called the Gaia Cannon. Requires him to absorb energy from the core of Earth, resulting in creating vibrations, earthquakes, triggers volcanoes, and caused massive destructions throughout City Z. The Gaia Cannon on the low end was calculated to be at least multi-continental. This is the third largest destructive capacity feat at that time of the story, right behind Saitama's Serious Punch and Boros' collapsing star roaring cannon. Now, pre-retcon Orochi displayed better fighting feats, transformed into what people calls it a humanoid form, pushed back Saitama far away with an energy beam, and despite Saitama charging at him, he managed to catch him and later on dodges his attack, which was crazy at that time. He obviously gets blitzed and destroyed right after with a single punch. The two versions of Orochi are highly different. The redraw version holds superior DC, while the pre-retcon holds better fighting feats, or I would say speed in general. Orochi goes after to fuse with Psychos to become an even stronger being, but we wouldn't be including Psycho Orochi in this matchup. Phoenix Man is a monster who exceeded all expectations, a member of the Monster Association serving as a middle manager claiming to be better than a cadre. He initially started as a demon level threat, capable of blowing back Bong, Bomb, Janos and Garo away with a flap of his wings, but was completely and easily defeated by Wild Emperor while not even trying. Now, a phoenix in Greek mythology is a mythical bird known for its ability to be reborn from its ashes, symbolizing immortality and renewal. Murata and One not only gave him the same and exact ability, but added a trick to it, which is getting considerably stronger than before each time he gets resurrected, gaining other skills and abilities in the process. All of his feats are seen in his fight against an S-class hero called Child Emperor. Now, it should be noted that there are two different versions of this fight, the first release and the redrawn. Both of them are incredibly different story and power scaling wise. We're gonna tackle into both and make sure to fully assess his feats and scaling in both cases. Phoenix Man resurrected after being killed by Child Emperor. His power level drastically increased as he went from being a weak demon to a dragon level monster, and that's after just one resurrection, capable of generating waves of fire and moves at such a higher speed, destroying all of Child Emperor's walls with a single poke. Now, this would demonstrate that Phoenix Man is no pushover. Forced Child Emperor to use his ultimate weapon called Brave Giant, stated that he was saving this to fight against the Monster King Orochi. Now, the redraw fits the story quite well and gives better depths and lore for future events. However, scaling wise, this is where it differs, as both versions holds different feats and abilities. In the new canon, Phoenix Man holds an ability called Phoenix Space. With this, he can force you to be inside a spiritual space that exists inside Phoenix's costume. Inside this dimension, he can monsterize any being, granted he can convince them and bend their wills to his, meaning one can escape it through sheer willpower. Phoenix Man also has the ability to transform into different modes. Starts with Phoenix Prominence Hawk mode, used to block Giant Brave attack and overpower him with a kick just right after. This mode obviously increases his physical strength and grants him greater energy output, as he stated he would vaporize Giant Brave's fist using 10k degrees of Celsius of heat. That's literally almost 2 times the surface heat of the sun. He after uses Phoenix Fire and Falcon mode, and this increases his speed and accuracy alongside with being capable of firing off flares from his hands. Now, Phoenix's next mode is extremely goofy. He calls it Phoenix Penguin mode. With this, he is agile, fast, slippery, and physically stronger. He threw a chunk of ice hard enough, sending Brave Giant through the wall and forces him inside his dimension for the second time. Now, Phoenix Man showed incredible durability throughout the fight, got tagged multiple times by Giant Brave's fists, and survives a hit that sent him through dozens of floors. Never showed any signs of damage or injury and lost his fight only due to Saitama being involved. However, his strongest ability in my opinion is his Resurrection Light. Bro can resurrect dead monsters around himself and control them to do his bidding easily. Even Gale Wind and Hellfire Flame, 2 dragon level monsters that Flashy Flash stated any S-class hero would struggle against, were controlled by Phoenix Man. Now, these 2 abilities that Phoenix Man holds are extremely dangerous in the One Punch Man verse. Monsters and dead monsters are everywhere, and if he can resurrect himself and others without limitation, this alone makes him hands down a top tier character. However, he holds a large weakness, which is his costume. If any monster or character can rip off his costume before he resurrects himself, then Phoenix Man can be defeated. Now, the pre-retcon form scales even higher than this. However, there are weird feats he presented that I would say is the reason for redrawing this fight, and we will be talking about it later in the video. Phoenix Man showed more maneuverability and speed feats. He dodged every single attack from Child Emperor and attacked back at the same time. His Prominence Hawk modes here seems to work differently. He doesn't inherently have that energy output he has in the canon version, but more so can absorb energy from Child Emperor's attacks and converting it to his. He gets after cornered and punched by Brave Giant using his full power. This is the same attack he did in the canon version, but in this version he actually gets killed by it. Using his ability, he resurrected again to become Phoenix Brilliant Eagle mode. Now, it's completely plausible to think that this transformation at least made him a high level dragon. His stats grew immeasurably to the point of blitzing Child Emperor and taking off one of his hands easily. On top of his increase in durability, strength, and speed, he can also use the new King Light of Awakening to resurrect other monsters and control them. This led Child Emperor to believe that Phoenix Man is the most dangerous monster and should not let him get away. And for that, he used his strongest destructive capacity attack named Millennium Emperor Nova, blasted him up through the clouds. Phoenix survives and seems seems fine afterwards, despite his suit being damaged. Now what happens next is one of the factors that I would say made Murata and One revise this chapter. Child Emperor uses a tactic to get a tickle bug into his costume, and it will continue to tickle until the target dies of respiratory distress. Phoenix Man after ripped off his costume using his brute force. Two problems with this. Considering the fact that Phoenix Man was many times faster than before, there's absolutely no way Child Emperor in his human form can react to him in time to deploy that tickle bug in his costume. This has changed in the retcon version since it was shown that Phoenix Man was gonna easily take care of Child Emperor, but Saitama stopped him. The other problem I have with this is that the monster before has stated that he cannot take off his suit, even if he wanted to, but his new raw strength rendered him capable of doing that. However, does that mean his raw strength is superior than even the Millennium Emperor Nova? In the new canon chapter, he refused to take it off, and even if he did, it would contain no problem since the Millennium Emperor Nova was removed and never happened. Phoenix Man is a very underrated monster, and hopefully we can see more of him in the future since he is still alive, being the weakest monster declared in the story so far. Now it's obvious that Phoenix Man wouldn't challenge Orochi with his demon level form, otherwise he would have done that already and get killed very fast. We'll assume he defeated Child Emperor, and as he said, he would go on to build his costume monster empire. This battle is pretty close, depends on the multiple scenarios that would occur. Now let's talk about Orochi versus the new Redron version of the Phoenix Man. It's pretty consistently shown and implied that Orochi far outscales other dragon level monsters, such as Goketsu admitting that Orochi is stronger than him, and if he tried serious enough against Phoenix, he'd be able to best him and overpower him. Child Emperor specifically prepared Brave Giant to fight against Orochi, but was fairly shocked at the sight of one of Metal Knight's robots being completely crushed by one of Orochi's horns. To Child Emperor, this demonstrated how strong Orochi is and said he hoped he doesn't run into him. In comparison to his fight against Phoenix Man, he was still relative throughout the fight, and the only things that bothered him were his hacks and not actually his fighting stats. Now the reason this fight is close, as I said, it's because of Phoenix Man's two cheat code abilities, Resurrection and Awakening Light. When Phoenix Man shows up to fight Orochi, the latter would surely question why this demon level monster is now a dragon. The most logical answer for him would be that he was hiding his true powers, same way Black Ass did, and if he kills him without ripping off his costume, he would resurrect again and be considerably stronger than before. But judging from Orochi being a genius, he would probably figure it out from the first resurrection. He would deduce that his costume is responsible for his reincarnation and tries to damage it without killing him using his high-speed horns. Or maybe use a strong destructive capacity attack that would disintegrate Phoenix Man alongside with his costume. The Phoenix space would be useless to Orochi since he would obviously break out of it with his will. However, Phoenix Man would not be an idiot. Fighting a genius like Orochi in a place where there are no dead bodies to resurrect using Awakening Light would be a fatal stupid move to do. Abilities like shapeshifting, shooting energy beams, using his horns and copying techniques are all useful for simply dealing with Phoenix Man, granted Orochi would already know about his resurrection ability. Now Phoenix Man's best course of action is to be patient. He would wait for many monsters to die in the Monster Association war against the heroes and try to collect as much monsters as possible to resurrect them in order to fight Orochi after. This would be very difficult for any opponent to handle. Now if this plan is in motion, it does not matter which version of Phoenix Man and Orochi were included in this fight, the pre-retcon or the redrawn one, as Phoenix Man holds the same ability for both chapters and never stated it has its limits. With enough strong monsters he resurrects, this would surely be too much for Orochi to handle. Now Orochi's way to defeat all the monsters is to use the Gaia cannon from the get-go to get rid of as many monsters as he can, including Phoenix Man with his suit, as Phoenix Man would obviously not be durable enough to take an attack of that caliber since a very inferior attack ripped off a very large portion of his suit. Now the pre-retcon version of Phoenix Man would have a higher chance against against Orochi, obviously, since he's already that strong, and if he goes to face Orochi without showing the monsters that he has in his arsenal and gets killed, he's gonna get an even stronger upgrade, and with that level of power boost, including the awakening light with it, it would be too much for Orochi to handle. Now, to sum up all of this, Orochi's ways of winning would be figuring out his ability and make sure he would destroy his costume. And in the case of fighting multiple monsters at once, the Gaia Cannon is his best way to win this fight. And for Phoenix Man to win is to be patient and use prep time, gathering monsters to overthrow the king and stay out of sight and not be cocky to not be caught with a strong attack like the Gaia Cannon. And as I said, this is a very close fight and can go either way. But judging from what Child Emperor said, Phoenix Man is the most dangerous and holds great potential to be above all the monsters, and that's due to his 2 cheat code abilities. Now, before we end this video, I want to give you a fun fact. Phoenix Man said multiple times that his powers are signs from God to be the one above all. And in the anime, the creature that was used to represent the God level threat was a phoenix. Maybe he would have a great major role in the storyline of God in the future since he is still alive. Thank you so much for watching this video, and please make sure to like and comment. You take care, okay? Join the Discord server, by the way. Since a very inferior attack ripped off his... Phoenix Man showed more speed and maneuverity feats. Phoenix Man showed more speed and maneuverity. Is that a fucking word? Like Askarani. There's no maneuverity. Maneuverability. What does that mean? The quality of being easy to move and okay, maneuverability. Alright. Anyways, I mean, Phoenix Man showed more speed and maneuverability.